Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Omega Insight. I'm really excited to share with you tonight the evolution of light. Now, I'm probably going to do this in one, two, maybe three parts, depending on how much information I can get in. I don't want to bore you with a very long uh, lecture. This is one of the workshops that George delivered back in 2004, and it is probably one of my most favorite workshops that he delivered. He talked about the evolution of light and the concept that light is the source of life. Obviously, everything that comes to us is from light, from the sun. And the sun comes down and, photosynthesis and so on and so forth. And that's how we survive. Without the sun, we would all perish. And throughout history, you could look at different religions and they actually equate light to God, universal source, the creator. So they've made that connection. Theology has made the connection to light and to source or God. We can just call it either way. And so the concept is that light comes to us, it comes to us, we absorb it, and then we actually can project light out. In the Kabbalah, that's one of the things they talk about, clearing your vessel so that you can receive the light and send the light back out into the world. And scientists actually now can measure the amount of light that we output. Each human being actually outputs light, which I find fascinating. And I'm going to talk about that next week. Today, I just wanted to talk about the concept of light and its vibrations and how we can evolve by using light. I remember years ago, there was this idea of um, not eating or drinking, but just absorbing light. Like there was the philosophy that you could survive off of light, which actually doesn't work because as a physical body, we have to have physical intake and to help keep our bodies alive. So naturally, we can't survive without eating or drinking as that matter. But anyway, in his concept, he talked about the idea that phos, phos, that's the source of light. So it's called phos. It's the source of light that comes to us. We absorbed that light. Now, any scientist can, you don't even have to be a scientist. Anyone can tell you that light breaks down into 7 different colors. So the visible light that we exist in breaks down to 7 colors. The whole spectrum in the electromagnetic spectrum, that's where light exists. The whole spectrum, you have gamma rays and microwaves, which we cannot see. And then on the other side is ultraviolet, which again, we cannot see, but they're still harmful to us and they still exist out in the electromagnetic spectrum. Visible light is the only place that we can exist safely. And visible light, anyone who's ever taken light, thrown it through a prism, you get a rainbow. Whenever you see the rain outside in the storms, there's often a rainbow because that's the light refracting through water. And it gives us 7 colors. And in Omega, and in many theologies and philosophies, the 7 levels are connected to the 7 levels of us as a human being. I've already talked about this before, but just as a quick update, you have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and we go purple and violet. Sometimes it's called indigo and violet, but we stick with purple and violet. So Roy G. Biv is what we go with. That's what I grew up with. So we have the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and violet. Red correlates to the physical, orange correlates to the emotional, yellow is to the mental, green, that's the intuitional aspect of us, blue is the admin, purple is the monad, and violet is divine. That we've discussed this in the past. Now, here's the incredible thing when we think about this increasing the vibration of our light. Let's just talk about physical. So let's go with water. So the most dense part of water is ice. And when we add heat to the ice, it melts and becomes water. And then when we add heat to the water, it evaporates and becomes steam. And if we still add heat to the steam, it actually becomes gases. So that's an illustration of how one substance, by adding heat, can change to a different form. It's still the same molecules, H2O. It just went from ice, solid, to water, fluid, to um, steam, which was gases and fluid combined, and then you have gases, which you cannot see. So that's an illustration of elevating or increasing the vibrations, because obviously the vibration of ice is hard and the vibration of steam, gases, is very fluid and light. So it's heavy, heavy light, if we could measure that or weigh it on any scale. Now, I don't want to get too scientific on you, but what I do want to do is connect the idea that as a human being, we have the same ability to increase our vibrations. Obviously, my physical body is going to maintain physical posture, although I watched during my stint with COVID, I watched a lot of TV, and I watched this incredible episode where they talked about in the Himalayas, there is a certain tradition where the masters will go into meditation. They'll go into a state of meditation and will not eat or drink. They just go into a state of meditation for up to 7 days, and during that time, the physical body decreases and the light emitted increases. It was really incredible to watch. Um, I'm a little trepidatious telling you the name of the show because I don't want you to think, ooh. But it was on Ancient Aliens, and it was an episode called The Lost City of Shambhala, or one of those. I don't remember the name of the title. I apologize for that. But it was phenomenal. They had physical evidence, photographs of this gentleman who just meditated. And he meditated to such a point that he increased his vibration that he literally dissolved his physical body. And there was a picture of like a stream of light where he used to be, and then he dissipated. And the concept is they're meditating to get to the Rainbow Bridge. That's their thing. Now, that's way beyond anything I want to talk about. I just thought it was really fascinating that I always used to say, no, the physical body is, it's here. We can't get rid of it. And then all of a sudden, there is something I can't explain. So, back to the idea of what I want to talk about with the evolution of light. I'm not saying get rid of your physical body. What I am saying is increase our consciousness, our awareness. Why is this beneficial? When we increase our consciousness and our awareness, we can maintain an inner state of peace. That's so I get to a position where no matter what anybody says about me, it doesn't affect me, positive or negative. Nope. I have a center state of peace. You could laugh with me, you could cry with me, you could be angry, you could be happy. I still have a center of peace. Now, I'm not talking about a flat line where there's no emotions. I'm talking about a center of peace where I can share energy with you and not let it affect me, and I have the ability to speak with intention and awareness. Therefore, I'm striving to make a contribution to the people I'm interacting with. That's the whole concept. All the books that I've read, there's tons of books back here, they all talk about elevating our consciousness. And the concept of elevating our consciousness is eventually to connect back to, if you want to call it God, source, creator, something higher and greater than this physical limitations that I have. That's the concept. I want to increase my vibration, and I can do this with light. We call it with the evolution of light. So the human being, as a human being, we have five senses: hearing, sight, smell, taste, and touch. We actually have emotions or other kind of feelings that are part of it. We don't call them our five senses, but we have a sense of fear, We all experience that sense of fear, heightened awareness, like something is about to happen. Intuition is part of that as well. So I'm not wanting to say that when we elevate our consciousness, all of our five senses are going to be elevated. No, what I feel like is when we elevate our consciousness, we will tap into those other levels of senses that we have. Our intuition kicks in. We have an inner sense of knowing. Um, we can reach that place of love, unconditional love, eventually, where we can love everyone and not have any upset or dismay. The past few months I've been mentioning about how disheartening is that the violence is increasing on the planet. And every time I read the news, it's another country is in up and uproar. And it's almost like I feel many years ago, we used to talk about the omega point, where consciousness gets so condensed and so stressful if we have conflict, which is like heat, and added to it, it brings us to another level of consciousness. So, or elevation. And that's one of the things I'm hoping for, that maybe this is it. Maybe with all of the stress and the strife and the pandemic that's going on, we're about to transition into another level of consciousness. And if that's true, then it would be beneficial for us to be prepared and become aware of that and implement it in our daily lives so that we can be successful when this next level of consciousness comes to us. Now, as I said, what we want to do is we want to increasing our vibration. So I wish I had a board to write on. Maybe next time I'll use the whiteboard. But our physical body is the lowest aspect of us, and the highest aspect of us is our spirit. So elevating our consciousness is we want to be able to move away from only being concerned with our physical body. We want to be able to move up to our emotional body and then surpass our emotional body and feed our mental body and surpass our mental body and keep increasing until we get to a place of divinity. That's the concept of evolution of light. By employing the techniques that George delivered in 2004 and that I want to deliver starting next Monday on May 9th, excuse me, April 18th, I want to be able to deliver these techniques of things that we can do, simple things that we can practice to help elevate our consciousness and hopefully prepare us for a possible shift that may be happening in humanity. I keep joking with my husband saying, with everything that's going on, I'm waiting for the aliens to come. Hey, here they are. It's the next best. I mean, what else can we have? We've already had the war, we've got famine, we've already had the pandemic, and, let's go with the aliens coming. Now, of course, I'm just kidding slightly. But the idea is that what we want to do is we want to cross the bridge of receiving light and cross our way of being and get to a place where we're reflecting light now. It's a balance. So there's a balance. Without being biblical, without being religious. Many texts talk about in the beginning there was the word and it was spoken and then it was light. And so the word was Yahweh, and the source of light is Phos, which I've already said, and light comes into the world. And photizo, Photizo, that's the light that's emitted from us. So there's a receiving and then ascending aspect of light. Now, I'm not sure if I'm doing a really good job here about talking about this, but again, we want to raise our consciousness from just our physical, emotional, mental, and we want to reach and tap into the Atman, the monad, and the divine aspect of us. Because the Atman, that's the blue, which represents essence, if I could just use that word. It's that spiritual substance that each individual has. And this, like, you have the ability to sit and observe yourself. That's what I'm going for. Like, I know there's an aspect that could look back and say, there's Anne Marie sitting there talking to the camera. There's like another aspect of me that's above physical, emotional, and mental. So that's the Atman. And then eventually reach the vibration of monad, which represents the one. And this means merging and becoming part of. Back in the 80s, I think it was, there was that big push for we are one world. And there used to be a picture of the planet Earth, and we are one people, one Earth, one world. That's the idea. It's connecting back to that connection of oneness, our universality. Instead of separatism, it's our connectiveness. That's the monad aspect. And then of course the divine, that's the violet, that's the representation of the infinity, the infinite all, God, cosmos, universal, whatever you want to call it. It's the origin of source. It's the origin of light. And I'm not talking about just the sun, I mean the spiritual light. That's the idea of that. So, metanoia is something that we discuss in the Omega classrooms, and it talks about the idea of reversing our thinking and having a shift in our thinking. I forgot I was going to do a Mobius strip, but you can look at this online. There's a Mobius strip where by just shifting our perspective, you end up with like an infinity, and we increase our awareness on that aspect. So this was just the foundation of the evolution of light. Next Monday on the 19th, that's when I'm going to discuss the simple techniques that George delivered on what we can do to elevate our light, to increase our receptivity of light so that we could contribute and make a contribution with our light. And before I end off, you might ask the question, well, what's the point of that? Why do I need to do that? Well, you and me as individuals, as human beings, we have the ability to make a contribution in a positive or negative manner. And when we make a contribution in a positive, um, we are affecting not only our environment, we're affecting the environment of the people whom we are interacting with, and they affect their environments, and so on and so forth. It's the power of, well, for lack of a better term, it's the power of being a human being. We have so many aspects of us. Human beings, we have the ability to be violent and destructive. And we also have the ability to be loving and creative and uplifting. So the choice would be yours. What type of human being do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who disdains and pulls life down and drains life? Or do you want to be someone who is uplifting? And that's the philosophy of Omega and the many years that we've been doing training since 1979. Omega has been in existence, and I have been with this organization since 1990. And since 1990, that has been our goal, is to help humanity increase our vibration so that we as a collective human race can elevate and survive peacefully with love leading us rather than fear, with compassion leading us rather than disdain. That's our goal. Uh, think about that. The idea of the contribution that you can make to humanity. And, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a Gandhi or a Mother Teresa. You can make a contribution in the collection, in your tribe or in your group, in your family, in your environment, you yourself. It just takes one. I love the idea that a raindrop is quite powerful. You never know how many raindrops it's going to take before the roof caves in. And yet, a raindrop is just a drop in the ocean. So if we look at it as just as a drop in an ocean, we think, oh, what can I affect? But then if you think about when it gets absorbed into the clouds and comes back down, that one drop can water plants. It can cause an ocean. It could um, feed feed the the animals and plants and whatnot that's on society. Okay, so I kind of drifted a little bit off of that. I apologize for that. Thank you for hanging in there. I know I'm going over. I'm really grateful to be able to share this information with you and look forward to discussing more on Monday, the 19th. Have a wonderful week this week. And as always, thank you for keeping the spirit of Omega alive. Bye now.